Breaking news. This is Christine. We have a group of EBTs who are ready to take over.
Hello, my name is Felisa Cannon. I'm from Bennettsville, South Carolina, and I am a third year Ella Baker trainer.
Hello, my name is Viridiana Gallegos. I'm a fourth year Ella Baker trainer from Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Hello, my name is Brittany Cannon. I am from Bennettsville, South Carolina, and I am also a third year Ella Baker trainer. We have the pleasure of sharing information about climate, culture, and child development.
Hello, everyone. My name is Felisa Cannon, and I am a third year Ella Baker trainer. Today, I am going to talk a little bit about climate management, and I'm also going to share with you how climate management affects scholars' performance and also how to effectively manage climate inside your classroom. I'm going to first start off by going through what climate management is, okay? Climate management refers to the moods, tones, and attitudes that scholars feel when they are in your classroom, okay, in your space. This climate does not just happen, but it is rather created. That means it takes time. It's just not going to happen right off the bat, okay? This means that there are things that we can do to ensure that the climate in our space is effective, not only for us, but most importantly for our scholars. Meaning, what can we do to ensure that our scholars are in a space where they feel like they can learn, they can share their thoughts, and that they can share how they are feeling with us, okay? Now that I've shared with you what climate management is, I want to talk a little bit about how it affects scholars' performance and the steps to take to create a positive classroom climate, okay? Now, when the climate is not managed effectively, it can create a very hostile environment, which can in return hinder or stunt the growth or development of our scholars, okay? On the opposite hand, when the climate is managed effectively, it can create a warm, welcoming atmosphere where our scholars can thrive. Okay. Now, I want to go through a few steps that you can take to ensure that you create a positive classroom climate. Okay. The first thing that I would like to share with you is that you should ensure that the expectations are clear and that your scholars are able to understand what is expected of them throughout the day, okay? Now, in Freedom School, this can be done by creating a classroom contract. A classroom contract is usually established on the first day of Freedom Schools, where you have your scholars to create a set of rules that they will follow while they are in your space, okay? Now, scholars are able to add their own ideas, which in return creates a space where they are more to adhere to the rules that they have created, okay? Now, this also helps to take away the uncertainty that many scholars may feel because they know what to expect and also what is expected from them, okay? It also helps them feel safe, which in return can help them better to learn and grow, okay? So the first step is to create that classroom contract, okay? Second step is to help scholars develop those positive relationships, not only with their teacher, okay, or their intern, okay, but with their friends that are going to be in the classroom with them all summer, okay. This gives scholars the opportunity to get to know their peers, and it also helps them to better support each other, okay. This can be done by the scholars participating in small groups, and it helps to ensure that they are not always working with the same individuals. Now, in Freedom Schools, we do small group activities. And during this time, it is a great opportunity for scholars to get to know their peers. Okay, they get to know them more personally, who they are, and it also gives the other scholars an opportunity to get to know them. Okay, it's important that scholars are not always in the same groups every day. Okay, you can allow them to be in the groups. Maybe for 1 week, they're all in the same group, and the next week they're in different groups. Okay. You could also use popsicle sticks to pull their names to put them in different groups, or you can use catchy phrases to help split them into groups. Okay. Again, these groups help establish positive relationships among their peers. Okay. The last step to create a positive classroom climate is to help nurture relationships with scholars. Okay, this is very important as it helps scholars feel a part of the classroom environment. Okay, and it also helps them understand that you really care about them. Okay, this can be done by taking the time to place scholars' name on the outside of our door. Okay, now in Freedom Schools, we create and decorate our own classrooms. Okay, so whatever your theme may be for your classroom, you can take that outside your classroom by creating a classroom door. Okay, whatever theme you may choose, make sure that you try to incorporate that on your classroom door and include your scholars' names. Okay, students pay close attention to those things when they enter the room, and it will make them feel very, very welcome to see that their names are on the outside of your door. Okay. Now, also, lastly, when you pay close attention to social emotional behaviors, you are able to better understand when something is off for scholars and when they need additional support. Okay. So putting scholars' name on the outside of the door, having those conversations with them, and just keeping an eye on them and noticing when things are off helps to nurture those relationships with your scholars. Okay, we talked about classroom climate, okay, and what classroom climate is. We talked about how to create effective classroom climate, and now I want to talk about how to effectively manage classroom climate. Okay, it is important that we are managing effective classroom climate. Okay, taking the time to ensure that the classroom environment is safe, everyone is following those rules and expectations that they created on the classroom contract, and understanding what is needed for scholars to thrive is very, very important. Okay, not only should classroom climate be created, but it should also be maintained. Okay, and this means that you are taking the time as the intern teacher to understand how scholars feel when they are in your classroom. Okay, it also means that we are taking the time to sit and have those meaningful conversations with scholars to understand what can be done better inside our classrooms to make them be able to learn more effectively. Okay, I think it's very, very, very important that we are taking the time out to have these conversations with our scholars. Now, these conversations don't always necessarily have to be done inside the classrooms. You know, in the morning times when you're sitting having breakfast with your scholars, you can have a conversation with them at that point. Just kind of get an idea of how they are feeling about the classroom. How are they feeling about the classroom contract, or how are they feeling about the small group activities? Okay. How are they feeling in general? Okay. So that you can learn what you need to do or what needs to be changed inside your classroom to make their experience better. Okay. It is also important that we make adjustments if needed to make the scholars feel more comfortable. Okay. So this goes back to having those conversations. If we're not having those conversations, then we don't know what needs to be changed or what we need to keep doing. Okay. Now, making adjustments can mean different things depending on what the scholars say. Okay. For example, one scholar may say that they don't like to be called out in front of their peers, or one scholar may say that they may not be able to work effectively in a group with a specific person, okay? Or that it may make them feel uncomfortable, okay? And us making those adjustments so that they can grow is very, very important, okay? Making adjustments could mean, again, not calling scholars out in front of other scholars because it makes them feel uncomfortable. Or it could also mean taking the time to sit and talk with an individual scholar daily, okay, to see how they are feeling or what additional support they may need from you or another professional to succeed, okay? And I want to take a moment to talk a little bit about other professionals, because sometimes scholars need something that you may not necessarily be able to provide inside your space, inside your classroom, okay? And it's important that this information, or you get them the necessary support that they need, okay? So talking to scholars, finding out what they need. And again, if you are not able to provide what they need in your space and you can get some additional support from others outside your space to help your scholars, that is great as well, okay? But this must take place by having those conversations with your scholars, okay? Again, I'm stressed it. I can't stress it enough. Having those meaningful conversations with your scholars to see how they're feeling, how they are feeling about what's going on in the classroom, okay? So that we can make those adjustments to make their summer go much smoother.
My name is Viridiana Gallegos, a fourth-year Ella Baker trainer, and I will be speaking to you about classroom culture. What is classroom culture? Classroom culture is the way the classroom looks, feels, and flows. You create a classroom culture by bringing your unique ways to your classroom. You want the culture in your space to be authentic, special to your scholars, and flow in an effective way. Classroom culture now is not something that happens on the first day. It's built with the engagement of your scholars and the energy you bring each day and provide for your scholars. Now, classroom culture happens beautifully when managed correctly, but also with including the CDF Freedom School's classroom components. I will be talking about ways to include the CDF classroom components into your classroom culture to allow effectiveness throughout your summer. I'll explain a little bit more about CDF Freedom School classroom components and the way they're used for effective classroom culture. Now, aside from you bringing all of your energy and having a unique way be a part of your classroom culture, including the CDF Freedom School classroom components will allow for your classroom to flow in a way where the culture just feels very unique and not forced. So, we include a classroom theme to bring a fun start to the classroom culture. Having a theme that feels unique to the scholars can allow the classroom culture to feel vibrant, energized, and sometimes not unique at all. Even with the virtual world, you can include classroom theme by allowing slides with the theme throughout the whole program and using that theme as a way to have the scholars be engaged online as well. Now, classroom culture also includes the effectiveness of routines within the classroom. Setting routines and expectations will allow the classroom to be more smooth throughout your day. We use things like a daily agenda and our daily schedule so that scholars are aware of how the classroom will go, but also will bring more of an effective culture based as it would be more natural flowing throughout your day. Another way to include classroom component is by having a welcoming. When you have a welcome sign with the scholar's name, it would make the scholars feel uniquely in that classroom, but also you can create that with the energy that you bring as well. For those in the virtual setting, you can include a welcoming by having it in your daily slides every time the student logs in to your class, or having it as a background setting so that the scholars are aware that they are included in that classroom. Now, if we follow the model works, and we use these classroom components to allow a fun and effective classroom culture. Also, when having a class filled with culture, allow the scholars to be fully engaged by asking them questions throughout the day. That could be questions during IRC, questions during afternoon activities to see how they're feeling, doing, and going. Utilize that theme you choose in different ways by having a scholar act as they're in that jungle theme classroom, or enjoy the beach sand theme by having a fun classroom culture. Also, encourage the scholars to bring their personal cultures to the classroom. This allows for them to be more in tune with the classroom culture as they're included throughout the day. Now, the way you speak to your scholars also brings culture. By being yourself and allowing your scholars to speak and bring who they are as well will make it more effective. Remember to use the cooperation contract if the classroom culture gets a little out of hand. When reinforcing, go back to that cooperation contract to get the scholars aware that they signed that contract and they were going to be all a part of the classroom. Now, enjoy creating an amazing, fun classroom culture. And remember, it's created every day with lots of love and lots of authenticity. Have a good time.
In order to better understand our scholars and have the capability to meet each child at their current level, it is important to understand the areas of development for children. Those stages include physical development, cognitive development, and socio-emotional development. Developmental milestones cover a broad range of behaviors and maturation factors in each child's life. Within the CDF Freedom Schools program, this information is pertinent because it allows servant leader interns, site coordinators, executive directors, and project directors to better understand what is developmentally appropriate for each child. In CDF Freedom Schools, this information is taken into account through the use of levels. The integrated reading curriculum is designed to pique the interest of each scholar through the exploration of developmentally appropriate books and activities. Physical development focuses on the use of motor skills. Motor skills include skills such as rolling over, standing, walking, running, maintaining balance, changing positions, the use of fingers and hands to write, eat, play, and grasp objects. Although physical development involves motor skills, physical development is vital for healthy growth and development. Physical activity can help a child grow physically, mentally, socially, and emotionally. All of these main areas are interconnected. The CDF Freedom Schools program incorporates physical activity from the beginning of each day in Harambe. Physical activity is strategically implemented in order to keep the scholars active and engaged throughout the day. Not only are our scholars growing physically, but they are growing mentally as well. In the CDF Freedom Schools classroom, it is important that servant leader interns challenge students through the use of Bloom's taxonomy and the different levels of questions during the implementation of the integrated reading curriculum. Some of those questions would include who, what, when, where, and how. These questions will assist the scholars in thinking for themselves and aid in their problem-solving skills, as well as check for understanding of important information. Socio-emotional development involves personal interactions with others, developing and maintaining relationships. The CDF Freedom Schools program aids scholars in the use of their socio-emotional development from beginning to end. Harambe requires students to interact with other scholars as well as servant leader interns and site coordinators. Within the CDF Freedom School's classroom, scholars will be required to participate in cooperative group activities with other scholars in their class, as well as assume cooperative group roles within their cooperative groups. Those group roles include runner, timekeeper, scribe, and presenter. The use of cooperative group roles, cooperative group activities, and the reading circle in the CDF Freedom School's classroom may assist scholars in becoming more aware of their own communication skills and how they are received by their peers. The servant leader intern in the classroom can use these interactions between scholars to create a level of sensitivity in the classroom to ensure that each scholar feels that the classroom is a safe place to share their true feelings or emotions.